Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
You know, we had a family friend come to the house yesterday, actually two family friends, and I could smell that bliss oil as they came into our house. Yeah. Air Bliss, specifically. That's the one that I smelled the most. But I'm sure there were other bliss oils. So, Brad is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Thank you, Brad, for doing that. Class, if you'd like to call and chat with Dr. Norman Shealy, we'll pay for the call. Toll free, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 24/7, 605-477-3249. Dr. Shealy, do you have any items that you'd like to share with us before we get into some of the things I've got on my list?
Nothing unusual, just the usual stuff. You know, it's as if the world is full of alarms.
Yes. Yes, it is. And that's one of the directions I was thinking we could go today. And so here's an example. And this relates to a medical condition we all know as high blood pressure. So what drives up blood pressure? So my question for you, Dr. Shealy, is let me just name some countries where people can no longer afford to heat their homes. Okay? So we're talking about food, clothing, and shelter. And this would be in the shelter department. So in, in Luxembourg, 1.9%, almost 2% of the people cannot afford to heat their homes. Finland, 2% can't. Sweden, 2.1%. Netherlands, 2.4%. Austria, 2.4%. Denmark, 2.7%. Estonia, 2.9%. Czech Republic, 3.1%. Germany, 3.3%. Slovenia, 3.9%. Slovakia, 4.3%. Iceland, 4.4%. France, 4.9%. In Belgium, 5.7% of the people cannot afford to heat their homes. United Kingdom, 5.9%. Poland, 6%. Malta, 6.6%. Hungary is 6.8%. Croatia, 7.4%. The European Union, 7.8%. Spain, 8%. Latvia, 9%. And then it goes really high. Romania, 11.3%. Italy, 15.2%. Portugal, 20.4%. Cyprus, 22.9%. Greece, 25.7%. Lithuania, 28.9%. And the winner is Bulgaria at 36.5% of the people cannot afford to heat their homes. Dr. Shealy, how does a stress like that affect blood pressure?
Well, any stress of significance that you don't let go almost immediately, in other words, don't detach from, causes high blood pressure, among other things. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. And it really suggests, doesn't it, a widespread, especially European, crappy legislative system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if they can't afford to heat their homes, obviously they're not eating very well. Obviously, the financial pressures have to be extreme.
Exactly.
So, and Dr. Shealy, what other things would this manifest itself as? Would it be things like suicides? Would it be things like premature deaths? Not living to a ripe old age? Diseases? What would be some of the outcomes from this
All
incredible,
of the above, and anything else bad you could think of. I mean, basically, stress ultimately kills us if we don't detach from it. Now, how you detach from inadequate heat and inadequate food and inadequate shelter, I don't know. I mean, I don't see a sane way in which you could just say, I ignore it. You freeze to death.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you...
Dr. Shealy, over the years, in your travels, have you seen people doing, well, I know that you're concerned about what they eat. Are you seeing a difference in the economy affecting how people eat over the span of your medical practice, starting in the 1960s? Are we eating worse? Are we eating better?
Far worse. Well, basically, the first McDonald's, the first true so-called fast food, came to Cleveland in, I believe, 1963. And that was the beginning of the loss of common sense in eating. Now, it wasn't just that. Already the food monsters, the mafia of the food industry, already had put margarine on the table and other artificial foods. But that came from the center of the food industry. And then when the so-called fast food restaurant craze began, it got worse. There's no question that total nutrition has deteriorated, I would say, about 80% since the early 60s.
Well, certainly not good news. Dr. Shealy.
Well, it's not good news at all.
Yeah. I was looking at a chart that talks about the top 10 causes of death worldwide. And number one, according to this chart, is heart disease. So of all the deaths that were measured, heart disease is at 17.3% of the deaths. Stroke is 10.1. After surgery deaths, we're looking at 7.7. COPD is really climbing at 5.4. Then we go on to dementia at 4.4. When you think about, someone being forgetful, you don't think of them dying of that, do you, Dr. Shealy? Most people wouldn't.
I do. I mean, obviously, Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia do speed up, if you will, or shorten the length of time that people survive. It's all over the place, of course, because some people can live several decades with slower deterioration and others go more rapidly. Basically, everything affects everything. All stress is cumulative.
Mm-hmm. Cumulative. Now, is it reversible?
If you do it before too much damage has been done, yes. In other words, hypertension, that's a good one. Because there's no question that hypertension shortens life and leads to strokes and heart attacks. But if you bring it under control and the heart is not, irrevocably damaged, you can go on to live a normal life. I mean, it's like, for instance, the statistics of smoking. People who quit smoking, if they survive 10 years, then have the same life expectancy as someone who never smoked. So it takes about 10 years, depending on how much you were smoking, I'm sure. I don't know the details between 1 and 3 packs a day. But you can recover from many, many stressors.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shealy, when you mentioned smoking, how long does it take a person to cleanse his body from the tars, the nicotines, and the insecticides that tobacco contains when they smoke?
Well, we don't obviously know that unequivocally, that statistic of if you survive 10 years, the same life expectancy as someone who never smoked. So I have to assume that in a good situation, it takes about 10 years to clean up the body.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way to accelerate that purge of the toxins that were deliberately and voluntarily inhaled into the body?
Yes, sweating. The single best way to detoxify the body is to sweat. Now, that sweating can be done in a sauna. It can be done in the summertime outside in the sun. I guess it could be done wrapping yourself up in a blanket in front of a stove in the winter. But a sauna or soaking in a bathtub can help speed up detoxification immensely.
Okay. And then at 4.3% is lower respiratory tract infection. We go on to, now would that be lower respiratory tract infection? Would that be considered pneumonia, Dr. Shealy?
Well, it does sound like pneumonia if it's lower, because that's no longer in the bronchi. It's down in the lungs themselves.
Okay. Then lung cancer is at 3.1% of the deaths. Now, here's an interesting one that we don't think of very often. I'm sure that you know all about this, but the rest of us who are not in the medical profession, diarrhea. 3% of people die from diarrhea.
Well, interestingly, among the most common symptoms that people have are fatigue and diarrhea. I would say if you just take the broadest sweep of things, intermittent and or chronic diarrhea is exquisitely common.
Wow. Dr. Shealy, I'm shocked. I'm shocked at that because, I'm sure just about everyone has had a bout of diarrhea at one time or another. But diarrhea, dying from diarrhea, gosh. And then third from the bottom is diabetes. 2.6% of the people die from diabetes.
Well,
can we talk about that when we come back?
Yep.
Okay. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. We'll be right back after these few short commercial announcements. We're talking about health, and we're talking about medicine. This is USA Prepares. That's Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, medical doctor, and we're talking about the causes of death. And diabetes is third from the bottom at 2.6%. Dr. Shealy, why do people die of diabetes?
Well, but the common cause of death in diabetics is either a heart attack or stroke. So they're not signed out as dying of the diabetes, even though those who have diabetes have a much higher incidence of stroke or heart attack. So the diabetes is called the cause of death only when it's the blood sugar out of control and maybe kidney death, because that would be the third leading cause of death in diabetes would be loss of kidney function.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and if you add according to this chart, and it doesn't show it this way as you described it, but if you take the diabetes at 2.6% and then the stroke, which is the number 2 according to this chart at 10.1, and then you take heart disease at 17.3, you put that together and you're at about 30%, rough numbers.
Right,
so,
and I would guess that is the minimum percentage of people who are dying, not just because of the heart disease or the brain vascular disease, but because of the diabetes itself. Now, at the rate we're going, if we continue to double the incidence of diabetes the way we have in the last 30 years, things are going to get really bad in the next 30 years.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do?
Well, we stop being gluttons and start eating real food. I mean, that's all there. It's so simple. Diabetes can be stopped if you start early enough. And there are herbs that can lower your blood sugar safely and infinitely safer than the anti-diabetic drugs, and of course it's calories. I mean, if you're overweight, you are eating more calories than you need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the second from the bottom is at 2.5% is road injuries. And tuberculosis is at the bottom at 2.2%. But wasn't tuberculosis a major killer?
Oh, way back 100 years ago, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right up until probably began to get it under control in the 40s to 60s.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a feel for how we got it under control?
Well, there is two ways. Number one is sanitation and separation of people with TB. And then actually there is one of the places where drugs did make a big difference in outcome.
Okay. You mean like antibiotics?
Well, there's specific ones for tuberculosis. Now, interestingly, when I had a 3-month rotation through a tuberculosis hospital in St. Louis way back in 1957, 58, I was placed, but didn't think about it at the time, I was placed for the entire time that I was in the TB hospital on anti-tuberculous drugs, which fortunately didn't harm me, apparently. But, I was dealing with people with tuberculosis every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Shealy, I met a man recently who had what's been called a bulbous nose, kind of like Bill Clinton has. What causes it?
The only thing we know that causes that is excess alcohol.
Okay. So that's the least
how long
of does it take to
problems?
Yeah. How long does it take to grow one of those bulbous noses, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, it varies. It could be 10 years to 20.
Okay. So if you don't want one, don't drink to excess?
Exactly.
Is that? Okay.
Let's face it. Anybody who consistently drinks more than 2, especially 2 drinks, that's an ounce of whiskey or a beer or 4 ounces of wine a day, is going to have trouble from alcohol. That's simple. I'm not saying you should drink 1 or 2, but you certainly should not drink more than that.
When we come back, can we talk about, is the higher percentage of alcohol in the drink more damaging to the body than, let's say, a beer? Let's talk about that when we come back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, and we're talking about alcohol. And what brought us here is I had a question about the bulbous nose, and that's from drinking alcohol to excess over the years. And so my next question is about the concentration or the percentage of alcohol in drinks. Is there a relationship to damaging the body with higher concentration? So, for example, there's a rum that is 84% alcohol. There's a vodka that's 85%. Another vodka, 88.8%. Pincer vodka is 88.8%. Everclear is 95% alcohol. So, and then a beer would be, less than 5% alcohol. Is there a difference, Dr. Shealy, in the concentration of alcohol and, let's say, damage to the body?
No question about it. Now, a drink of one of the whiskey, the regular high content alcohol is 1 ounce max. With a beer, it's 12 ounces. And with wine, it's generally considered 4 ounces. So that does take into account this stronger differential between what I call whiskey and beer or wine.
Mm-hmm. And is it dangerous to drink straight a 92% or 95% alcohol? Is it, or should it be thinned out? Like a beer is pretty thinned out, right?
Well, a lot of people do put soda water or ginger ale or even my goodness, Coke in with their whiskey, and dilute it that way. But some people actually drink it slowly, or some people drink it quickly. But when you get, let's say an 80% alcohol, an ounce of that right into your stomach, it can't be good for the lining of your stomach.
Mm-hmm. That was my question, and all the way down, down through the esophagus.
Oh,
so
yeah,
do you think
even the mouth itself. I can't imagine slugging one.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is if you can avoid it, which we all can, avoid it. Avoid slamming down those high percentage alcohol.
Now, I have to admit that throughout my 52 years of my married life, my wife and I would have a 4-ounce glass of wine, maybe twice, occasionally 3 times a week, slowly sipping it, as just a social event. Now that I live alone, since my wife passed, I don't drink ever, except when someone comes to visit. And now, most of the time, I take 1 or 2 ounces of wine and sip it slowly with other people when they're having their regular class.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shealy, do you have a favorite couple of wines that you really like that you would recommend?
My all-time favorite is Madeira. And actually, Paul Maison from California makes the best Madeira in the world. Madeira from Spain or Portugal, it doesn't even come close to having the flavor, the taste, the nice feeling that Paul Maison's Madeira has. Interesting, by the way, Madeira wasn't made in California until Thomas Jefferson's day, but that was his favorite wine.
Mm-hmm. And what would be your second favorite?
A white Zinfandel.
Mm-hmm. And third, maybe?
Well, actually, it would be Corbel's Brut Champagne.
Mm-hmm. We had an old friend when I was growing up, family friend, who was a world traveler, and that was his favorite, Corbel Brut. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And so those corks have been popped a number of times at our home, not to excess, but just he would come over and he'd bring a bottle with him, and everybody would have some. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Shealy, we talked about the bulbous nose. Is there any way of removing that bulbous appearance from the nose?
Well, I'm sure plastic surgeons have some way of doing it, but I wouldn't want to go near that.
No, but I mean, other than the knife, is there a method of reducing it? Returning it back to its original.
That if you quit drinking and use a castor oil pack every night for a month or two, it could make a big difference. Castor oil is absorbed through the skin, and it helps cleanse the lymph system.
Okay. And how would you do that on your nose? Just like a gauze?
A sponge, let's say, something the size of a 4x4 gauze, and soak it in castor oil and put it on your nose for an hour or two before you go to bed.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article. Okay, go ahead. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I was reading this article about this guy, and he paid, I'm going to try to make this family friendly. He paid $1,500 for a male enhancement, and this would be injections. Injections to change his appearance at times. And so he got these shots, and then he claims that he has been left disfigured.
Well, stupidity does pay off in negative ways. I mean, the idea of accepting injections into your sexual organ is beyond my understanding of sanity.
Mm-hmm. Mine too. Okay. So a word to the wise is don't do it. Just don't do it. And what about these?
I have published 2 articles on how to do it naturally.
Okay.
One is to take large doses of vitamin D3 for a minimum of 6 months. And the other is there are vacuum pumps that work. I've actually tested this in a number of people and published scientific articles on the benefits.
And are those articles available on your website?
I don't think those articles are on my website. They're in my curriculum vitae. And if someone asks me for them, I'd be happy to, give it to them or give them the reference.
Okay. So, class, that would be just send you an email at, where would you like that email to go?
Norm at normshealy.com.
Norm at normshealy.com. That's NORM at Norm Shealy, SHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, I was reading an article that kind of stunned me. And this describes the insanity of where we're going and political correctness. So here it is. If you need a hammer, I'm talking about a common hammer. I've used one probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times over the weekend. If you need a hammer for any reason, the United Kingdom's counterterrorism policing unit will consider you a potential terrorist.
The total loss of sanity.
But it's worse. It's worse. They're also asking that anyone who sees someone doing something suspicious. Let me start over because I can't believe I'm reading this. And this is on zerohedge.com. They're also asking that anyone who sees someone doing something suspicious, like purchasing a hammer, report it to the enforcers. Now,
even purchasing one. Oh my heavens! Well,
we've lost our minds, Dr. Shealy.
The world has gone stark, raving, crazy.
Yeah. And if this group, the United Kingdom's counterterrorism policing unit, if we had one here, and they came around to our house, and the shop was open, they'd find a whole drawer full of hammers, different kinds of hammers, ball peen hammers, claw hammers, ripping hammers.
Yeah, I think I've only got 2.
Sledgehammers, small sledgehammers, big sledgehammers, mauls, axes. Gosh, now, what would they think of an axe, right?
Wow.
So I'm shocked at what's happening. 5G, Dr. Shealy, I am very concerned about 5G microwave radiation, millimeter radiation. I'm extremely concerned about it because I was on the air last week and I pulled out one of the books that I have in the studio. Let me just reach. The book is called, I just reached for it, Where Did the Towers Go? Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology on 9/11 by Dr. Judy Wood, BS, MS, PhD, Clemson University. She was fired after she wrote this book. It's a coffee table book. It's 500 pages. And it shows people jumping out of the windows of the World Trade Center. Now, they were not on fire. They were taking their clothes off, and they were jumping to their absolute certain death from, let's say, 500 feet in the air down to the ground, or to the pavement, or the sidewalk, or to the people below, or to the parked cars. Wherever they landed, they were going to die. And people were doing this, and they were taking their shirts off and then jumping out of the window. Now, I know, Dr. Shealy, I've been a volunteer fireman, and I've been near very hot fires. And the last thing that I would do is take my shirt off. That's the last thing I would do. because I'd want to protect my skin from the fire. What I'm talking about is the evidence of what appears to be an active denial energy-directed weapon, which is in the millimeter-type frequencies, which is like 5G. Can we talk about that and what you think may be the dangers of 5G when we come back? We're talking about 5G, these very, very high-frequency radio waves that are being deployed throughout the country. And class, if you think about it, let's say back in the 1960s, a lot of people listened to AM radio. And then FM became more popular. FM will travel, let's say, 50 miles. AM radio, which is a lower frequency, can travel hundreds of miles. And when the conditions are right, for example, if you're on the East Coast, you can hear a radio station in Chicago. Or if you're in Missouri, sometimes you can hear radio stations that are hundreds of miles away as well. So the longer the wavelength, the lower the frequency. The lower the frequency, the farther it can travel. Well, as we get to higher and higher frequencies, they can't travel as far. And with 5G, we're talking just a few hundred feet. Okay? So now if you look at your 3 and 4G cell towers, you say, wow, they're miles away. Well, yeah, they can travel miles. But when you get to 5G, these really high frequencies, they can't travel as far. And the reason that is being used for deploying 5G is more data, faster, faster, faster. You can watch movies, with 5G better than you can with the previous deployments of these cellular type microwave frequencies. But we're talking now about having a transmitter receiver every 1 to 300 feet. That means every power pole, every light pole in the cities. And you will be able to be identified within 100 feet of where you are if you have a 5G phone. 100 feet. Now think about a 100-foot extension cord. We know where you are within 100 feet. That's like 5 car lengths, bumper to bumper. Dr. Shealy, are you concerned about 5G as I am?
Well, let me tell you why I'm concerned about 5G. Human DNA resonates, vibrates at 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. The sun, when you're outside, puts out 1/10 billionth of a watt per centimeter square of those frequencies in the upper, near 100 gigahertz. But we absorb gigafrequencies. That has been exquisitely proven by both Russian and Ukrainian physicists. And, of course, I brought that technology back in 1995 from the Ukraine. So at a billionth of a watt, not a 10 billionth, but a billionth of a watt of 52 to 78 billion cycles, our entire skin absorbs and resonates and is healed by 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. Now, when it gets up to 100 or more, it literally is dangerous to everything in our body. Every cell in our body is actually being slowly fried. I don't know how long it takes, but it's dangerous.
Well, we have in that same frequency, government corporations have built active denial, non-contact transmitters. So let's say there's a riot. What do you do if there's a riot? Well, it used to be fire hoses, right? Then there were sound waves that you could audibly hear and feel. And it's just so loud it would turn you away if you were, let's say a protester protesting things that a government was doing. Well, now we have active denial, which literally aims microwaves at you, which will cook your skin, just like what I believe happened at 9/11, where people were cooked through their skin to the point where they were willing to kill themselves to stop it and jump out of a over 500-foot window, literally. Let's talk more about that when we come back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, normshealy.com. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us when we've been talking about 5G. Dr. Shealy, you know, in the 1960s, in early 1960, we were just talking about having a satellite in space. Now we're talking about, the FCC has approved Elon Musk's project for 12,000 satellites in space. And literally what we're talking about is in the very near future, as many as 20,000 satellites in our atmosphere. That means, as far as I can figure, there will be no escape. Absolutely no place on the planet that you can go that you will not be impacted with these high-frequency microwave radiation transmissions. Does that seem reasonable to you, that that's what's going to happen, Dr. Shealy, that we will all be...
No, you got to you used the wrong word with this guy. To me, it's insanity. It's not reasonable or unreasonable. It's craziness.
No, I don't mean he's reasonable. I mean, is it reasonable to believe that we will all be bathing in these frequencies?
Oh, yes. No question about it.
I'm extremely concerned. So, class, here's what this means. This means that if you go outside, you're going to be bathing in it. If you walk across the street, you're going to be bathing in it. If you have a car and you get from your house to your car, you're going to be bathing in it. If you go from your car to work...
We don't know whether it goes through the metal of your car.
Right. And in addition to that, how many of you, if metal would protect us, how many of us have metal roofs on our houses? I would venture less than 5%. That's my guess. It's not scientific. So most of us have what's called a composition shingle roof, and these frequencies will go right through it. Dr. Shealy, we have seen absolutely for certain a decline in the population of birds in Missouri. We have seen a decrease in the population of bees and insects in Missouri. And I don't think we're a special case. I really believe that these frequencies are confusing small animals. And I think they're making us angry, meaning they are affecting our moods. Is that possible?
I think it's not only possible, probable.
Okay. Well, this, from what I read, there was, what caused us to figure this out? Well, there used to be like homing pigeon races, and these birds would be set out, and they would be timed how long it would take them to come back home. Literally, races, bird races. Well, after the deployment of these towers, the birds don't come back. I think the reason is they are confused, and they don't know how to get back. Now, if that's happening to a bird with a brain, why would that not happen to us with a bigger brain? And I would think
no question about it. It's serious, perhaps even worse than nuclear energy, which I've always considered the worst of everything that's ever been invented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we're so stupid. We carry around these cell phones in our pockets. We visit people's homes and we We bring them into their homes. We take electromagnetic radiation everywhere where we go. Not everybody, but too many of us do. Not me. We have Wi-Fi in our homes. We think that smart appliances are really neat. You know, having a wireless thermostat on our house. Really, why? Why? Why do you have to have a wireless thermostat? Makes no sense to me. Why do you have to say from your lazy boy chair, thermostat, turn the heat up? Really? Why would we even consider doing that? If I were the CEO of a company and we made electric gadgets and someone came into my office as CEO and said, hey, Vinny, I got a great idea. Let's have sneakers that communicate with our cell phones. I'd throw them out. If he said, hey, let's have a coffee maker that we can set the time that the coffee maker wakes up in the morning with our cell phone, I'd throw them out. But you know what? I would probably, in terms of making money, that'd probably be the wrong thing to do because there's so many stupid people that want these kinds of devices. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. A sneaker made by Nike that will tighten itself, tie its own laces, and that's not literal, but the equivalent of tying its own laces based on what you tell it to do from your smartphone. And they say things like, do you realize that you can have your washing machine? You can start washing your clothes from work through your cell phone. Really? I want to be there in case that darn thing overflows on the floor. Okay? I'm not going to trust a washing machine not to overflow, not to leak. And do you know how great it is to be able to change the temperature of your refrigerator from your cell phone while you're driving? These things. I'm sorry, Dr. Shealy. I can't believe. Well, Einstein said it. Human stupidity is infinite. Infinite. Well,
yes,
just along that same line of thinking.
That's why we're in the trouble we are.
Okay. I was having a discussion. I was teaching a class over the weekend with family friends, and we were under their truck in our garage. So we had it up on the lift, and I said, "Wow, now." I said, "Look at this. Now, there's your spare tire." And I said, 28% of new vehicles do not come with a spare tire. 28%. And we had the discussion under the car, or the truck, I should say. And the reason is, well, there's several reasons. One is people don't know how to change the spare tire. Okay, they get a flat and they don't know what to do. Well, what happens, Dr. Shealy, and I believe this relates to high blood pressure, as we talked about before. Here's why. So you're driving along and you hear this rumbling sound and you think, gee, it's not steering so well. What's going on? And you realize you have a flat tire. So you pull over to the side of the road. And then you have this new car that's supposed to be great for years without problems. But you have a flat tire. And then you find out that it's a Mercedes or a Chevrolet or a BMW or a Lexus or one of these new vehicles without a spare tire. So what do you do? What are your options? There aren't many options. One option is you take out your cell phone, should you have a signal, should the battery be charged, and you call someone for a tow truck. Because if you don't have a spare tire, you can't change the tire. And you certainly don't have the jack and you don't have the tools if you don't have the tire with your new car. So what happens next? Well, let's say it's an all-wheel drive vehicle and your tire is, let's say, 1/4 worn out. Well, you can't just replace that tire because then all the tires will be different sizes, even if you get the same brand and the same model tire. Because of the wear on the remaining good tires, you now have to replace all 4 tires. But not only that, the guy that comes to your aid is not going to be bringing a tire and a tire machine and a wheel with a tire on it that's balanced. They're going to bring that vehicle over to wherever they bring them to work on them. Then, if it's at night, then tomorrow they can work on your wheel and your tire. If they have that tire in stock. Well, actually, they need 4 of them now. What I'm saying, Dr. Shealy, is we are allowing ourselves to be held hostage by stupid decisions that we make without thinking about, does this new car come with a spare tire? Yes or no? That's what I'm saying. We're not asking the right questions. We're not thinking logically. We're thinking everything's going to be all right and someone's going to come to our aid. But how high would a person's blood pressure be stranded on the side of the road in rush hour traffic or at night or on the rural roads of America without a spare tire? I can't see anything other than blood pressure rising really quickly for that person and everyone else in the vehicle. Have I lost my mind, Dr. Shealy?
No, you are just stating the facts. Mm-hmm. Facts of life. And the broad-based stupidity of humanity.
And Dr. Shealy, we can't fix our own things. I'm going to make a statement. I was thinking about this while I was in the shower this morning. I was thinking, do I want to make this statement? And I've decided I will. The statement is, I believe for most people, we have crossed the line of not being able to deal with the technology we have created for ourselves. What I'm saying is, most people can't handle the technology that's in front of us. We can't live with it. We can't maintain it. We can't circumvent it. We can't even escape it. We have put ourselves in a technological box that we can't get out of. And I believe 100% of it is caused by the individual greed of the people at the highest levels of the companies that make the products that we are stupid enough to buy. I'd love to hear your comments on that, Dr. Shealy. Is it reasonable when I said that I believe that we can no longer deal, the average guy, the average gal, with the technology that we've built? We'll be right back. Because I made a statement with Dr. Shealy that I believe that we've passed the point where we can deal with the technology that we've created for ourselves. And let me just give you one quick example before Dr. Shealy's comment. And that example is, let's say a person's working at McDonald's as a French fry technician, where that person's job is to make French fries. Well, the machine is automated. It determines the temperature. It determines the time. It determines everything about making those French fries. Now, the question is, could that French fry technician be able to make French fries without the automation? Meaning figure out what temperature the fry oil should be, what temperature the fries pulled out of the freezer should be when they're awaiting being cooked, and how long they should be cooked. Could that person figure that out? And I think the answer is hardly. Dr. Shealy, it's just one example of technology that I think has trapped us to the point where we don't know how to do anything anymore.
I'm with you all the way, Big Blue. I totally agree that, it's gone crazy. That's the kind of way of putting it.
Dr. Shealy, back in the 1960s, I remember that when I was going to go someplace with adults, of driving age, let's say my parents, and we were going to go somewhere as a family, we would take the map out and we'd look at this paper map, unfold it, and we'd look at, here's where we are, here's where we're trying to go, put a pencil mark, start point, end point. Here's the road we're going to take. And we could look at the map and we could see visually whether we're going north, south, east, west, and visually how big the state was and how long our trip would be based on that. And there was a little, there was a scale that could, you could look at inches, like 1 inch might be 10 miles. And you could say, well, this is 5 inches, that's 50 miles. So we had a visual perspective in our minds about the trip. Then we would refold the map, but it wouldn't be folded in the original folding pattern. It would be folded so we could see where we're starting from and where the destination was. So we could look at it as we traveled. We could say, okay, here's where we are in the journey. But that's not what happens anymore. What happens now is people look at their phone and they type in their destination, because the phone knows where they are through GPS right now. So then the phone will say, leave the parking lot and turn left. Continue X number of miles. Turn right onto Highway 101, that kind of a thing. So people don't even have a visual image in their mind of where they're going, because they just have turn-by-turn directions. How can that be a good thing, Dr. Shealy, for keeping our minds?
Sergey laughs at me. I still have a map in my car. I obviously don't use a phone. I don't have a phone that would take me there. And so I still use a map no matter where I go.
That's what I do. I like having a map, because if I had a cell phone and I were out of cell phone range, I wouldn't be able to know how to get from where I was to where I want to be, or where it left me without signal. And I've been in a car with people who have cell phones, and they'd say, okay, we'll just type that address in and we'll go that way. And the cell phone will tell them turn by turn how to get there. And then all of a sudden you find out that it's wrong. The directions are wrong, and you don't know where the heck you are. Literally. Because you haven't been paying attention. You don't have to pay attention. All you have to do is look at the screen and listen when it says turn, continue, that kind of thing. And I have been in the position where we were lost because the cell phone literally couldn't figure out where we were or how to get where we wanted to go, or it took us to the wrong place, which I don't think quite happens as often with a map. So that's why I've been saying that I think we have crossed the line where we can't live with the technology that we've built. And we're depending on other people so much that we don't know how to do hardly anything anymore. I'd love to hear your comments when we come back. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, we need today, in order to work on a car, we need a computer to talk to the car's computer for vehicles that are 1994 and newer. So you need a computer to hook up to your car's computer to tell you why the car is acting up. It's darn near impossible to work on a car that has a problem without having a computer to tell you what is wrong with your car's computer system, or to read your car's computer system to tell you what's wrong. So what should we do as a whole bunch of John Galts, people who are resisting the oppression of technology? What do you think we should do? Or is there a holistic approach that you might have thought of that would help us get through or survive this onslaught of omnipresent technology?
Well, I don't even go near it. I have no idea, and I have to admit that now under all circumstances, just take my car in for routine servicing and hope that will do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't see a way of doing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult. Dr. Shealy, you've sent out an email that's titled Rewiring Your Brain. Can you share with us what your thoughts are about that?
Well, interestingly, most people think the brain is sort of, once you're like, I don't know, a couple of years old, it's almost fixed in the way it is. And I have worked for 50 years on what Sir John Eccles called the plasticity of the brain. The brain actually is reformed, rebuilt every 7 years. In fact, every neuron in your brain actually dies and is recreated as it wears out. And so the evidence is overwhelming that if you stimulate it properly, you can grow new neurons. That means you can learn new things. You can, keep evolving in an improved way. That's a simple approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Joey in Michigan, welcome. With
Hey,
Dr.
good morning,
Shealy.
Vince. Dr. Norm, how are you guys?
I'm great, Joey. How are you?
Living the dream.
Well, it's better than a nightmare.
They're usually one and the same. You guys were talking about the G5, the frequencies, and I want to snowball that into maybe that violet ray machine, the Lavoisky machine, your scalar energy machine. How are all those energies different? As the succession from the violet light to Lavoisky, because that was all in the early 1900s.
Interestingly, as far as I know, and I have analyzed all of these, the old electrete that was put out in 1919 and on the market well into the 90s puts out human gigafrequency, that is 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. The violet ray puts out the 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. The Lavoisky multi-wave oscillator puts out 52 to 78 billion. My Rejuva matrix puts out the 52 to 78 billion. So basically, the ideal as a healing device is one that includes 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of a watt per centimeter square.
So the G5 is putting out what?
Up to five, at my understanding, it is up to well over 100 gigahertz and maybe go to 500 gigahertz. But anything over 72, when you get it over 78, is potentially dangerous.
So as well as you can heal with frequencies, you can really cause severe damage with frequencies.
Oh, absolutely. You can literally fry the brain.
So when you go to those states like delta, beta, alpha, beta, gamma, is there a tool that, other than putting it on your head to register it, is there a tool you can put at the machine to identify those particular hertz patterns coming out of it? To identify
well, you need an EEG, it's called, electroencephalogram.
That's the machine, but there is no, like when you're looking at a telephone tower and you're looking for EMFs, you can shoot.
No.
There is no tool. Okay, that was the question.
Yeah, we have no easy way of measuring. Now, Tektronix has put out for decades a signal analyzer, and it goes only to 100 billion cycles a second.
So it don't identify anything lower than that.
Well, yeah, it'll go from 1 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz. Yes, giga is billion.
So your Rejuvenite and the violet ray or electrolyte or Lavoisky or the copper pyramid with the Tesla coil, those are all operating at about the same energies.
Exactly. I've been working with these since 1995.
And some of them tools have been out for almost 100 years. And yet, the medical, as you put it, the medical mafia would hide all of that just to harm you instead of helping.
In fact, they not only hide it, they attack it, call it quackery.
Right.
And the real quackery is ignoring reality.
And the difference between that machine in like your TENS unit, the TENS unit pulsates a vibrating pulse to a electro pad?
In general, most of the regular TENS go from 1 to 100 cycles per second.
Oh, wow. The difference between your Rejuvenite and the Pyramid, what's the difference in that?
Well, the Rejuve-Matrix is either a pyramid made of copper tubing, again, hooked to a Tesla coil, or a mattress with copper screening and crushed sapphire in the center of it, hooked to a Tesla coil. The same cause of the frequency is the Tesla coil. The copper is only amplifying it and, creating a field effect.
You had said something of bringing back in 1995. You brought back from, was it Russia? Was it Europe? What did you bring back?
Ukraine. Kiev.
Okay. And what was that?
Well, that was the Ukrainian physicists had spent since 1988 working with these frequencies, and they're the ones who determined that human DNA was 52 to 78 gigahertz. Now, Lukovsky said it was 50 plus gigahertz. He did not differentiate it. The Ukrainians are the ones who made it to 52 to 78, and they had developed devices that put out these frequencies at a billionth of a watt. In fact, I have several of them that I got from the Ukraine.
And that was probably 88. When did the wall come down? Early 80s?
Let's see, 70. Let's see. Sergei Sorin was born in 74, and the wall fell approximately when he was 12 years old. So somewhere in the early to mid 80s, yes.
Okay, so the Russians could have been working on this kind of healing long before. Sure. So only after the wall came down, they start just talking about this a little more freely. So, I mean, for fairness, they could have been using it since we've been using it. The difference is, like Russia would ban a microwave for cooking your food in since 1976, and here they call you nuts if you don't want to cook your food in a microwave.
Yeah, I guess I'm nuts because I don't even have a microwave.
No, I got it. I mean, the only thing a microwave's good for is you put your driver's license in there for about 15 seconds.
I'm with you all the way.
That's, and that's the only thing I think it's good for. But, and you got to be careful because over 15 seconds, it smokes a lot.
Right.
Another question. We had talked about, back in November, about the prostrate. And I'm jumping ship because I've been wanting to call back, and you were on some sabbaticals and your different awards. But you had talked about the prostrate being massaged because apparently it gets hard or something. And
right.
What
I missed a word. The size what?
A prostrate.
Yeah, what about it?
You said because the prostrate gets hard, and then what makes the prostrate get hard? Is it
inflammation?
And what causes that?
Well, it is a combination of excess estrogen and just general inflammation that occurs everywhere in the body because of crummy diet, etc. In other words, most people, there's a blood test called a high sensitivity C-reactive protein, CRP. If that is above 3, average physicians admit that that's a serious problem. Most people, it's in the mid to 2 to 1.5 to 3 or above. Personally, I like it well below 1. Mine runs about 0.6, and as long as you keep your CRP low enough, it prevents the prostate from enlarging and causing serious troubles.
Joe, you want to hold through the break and continue?
I would. Thanks.
Okay, great. Joey in Michigan, Dr. Norm Shealy, and Norm Shealy is available at normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And we'll tell you very quickly when we come back how to get in touch with Dr. Shealy. Class, if you'd like to contact Dr. Norman Shealy's office in Springfield, Missouri, or in the Central Time Zone here in the United States, that telephone number is 417-351-5221. Repeat, 417-351-5221. Joey's been asking questions about the prostate. Joey, please continue.
To your diet, and the reason I keep asking these questions because inevitably we're going to be in a scenario where we're not going to have, I don't think, the technologies we have today. And, a prostrate is something on the inside. It's not like if you get a boil on your finger, you can cut it off. So would you attribute any of these electrical machines to a healthy prostrate, whether it's your Rejuva machine or the older?
Well, actually, I prefer the Rejuva Matrix mattress because I can put it on my bed, and when I go to bed at night, I put it. It's on a 1-hour timer. I just switch it on, so I get 1 hour of the giga frequencies during the first hour of sleep. That's the simple way.
That will regrow your telomeres as well?
Exactly.
So two things you're doing. You're rejuvenating your telomere system, and then the program it runs is rebalancing. It's rebalancing what in your body?
Well, actually, every cell. You see, okay. Stress of all kinds can change the frequency of your DNA. That is one of the reasons that our telomeres cause every cell in your body to be replaced. It's actually regrown within 7 years. It wears out. And the more stress you have, the faster that wear out occurs. So the average person dies at age 78 instead of 100. We're genetically programmed to live 100 years if we have good health habits. But it shows you how bad our health habits when the average person dies so young. Now, by doing these things, I believe we can not only live an average of 100, but beyond 100 healthily. That's the whole purpose of it.
When the people hear you talk, they don't realize your age because you don't sound your age. And they really, I can say when I was at Vince's 4th of July gathering, you were there, and I don't know if you remember, but I was standing at the counter. You came alongside of me. You crossed your legs and sat down like an Indian. You were petting Vince's ginormous dog. And then you got right back up like an Indian with your legs crossed and got up. You didn't need a chair. You didn't need to roll over on your knees. And, people don't understand that, I don't know, that was 3 or 4 years ago, so you were at least 80 then. And, there's most people. Go ahead.
Well, I'm 86, and I still feel 26, Joey. When I say physically, mentally, emotionally, I have as much energy and enthusiasm as I did at age 26.
And you're going to have to base a part of this on the cellular rebuilding, the telomeres. Food is a part of it, but the cellular energy, these machines, if they weren't benefiting people, they wouldn't call them quackery. That's why they have to insult it because, God forbid if we had a machine that could heal you, and yet the medical industry would have to close its doors. I've got a cousin right now that's got esophageal cancer, and he's getting all the special treatments. And, no matter how it ends, it can't be well just for the fact of the treatments. And, I'm always looking at shine the light in the path I want to go. And the path I want to go, I like your path. I mean, it's exciting to see where you've been and how you got there.
Well, I've been at it, to greater or lesser extent. I think you could say I began to create this when I was in medical school. And it's just been a passion of mine to be healthy and to help other people be healthy.
Thank you, Norm.
Hey, thank you, Vince and Joey.
Yeah, there
Thanks
you go.
a lot.
Joey, thank you for calling in. Joey's an instructor at USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy's an instructor at USA Prepares. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your wealth of knowledge.
Always worth it. Have a good one.